I recorded this earlier and I decided to make it into a video, kind of just demonstrating how to scoop some of these fragments on what I called my Deep Core 1 adder, which doesn't have any limpets. It gives up limpets to gain that cargo space. It has 19 tons of cargo space. Well, not cargo, but that includes the refinery in that number. And on what I call my Deep Core 2, there's a close-up of what a fissure looks like on these metallic, metal-rich kind of asteroids. It's kind of important to know, although it is fairly difficult to see, you have to get pretty close. The other two types of cores, it's much easier to see from even a moderate distance, and rocks are huge, so you can see them from quite a ways away. And what happens here is I'm actually going to make a mess of this, a bit of a mess of this first collection. Hopefully that'll demonstrate what not to do, and then hopefully I do a better job on some of my further cores. And what I don't want to do here is to run into these things and send them flying. And I select one on the bottom of the rack there. That means I hit into all the rest of them, and I tip my nose down too quickly here and I send that one flying. And those are the things you do not want to do. And notice how when I line up on these cores, I keep them into the bottom half of my targeting reticule there on the left. I don't put them on the crosshairs. I put them right under that because they're just so large that if you put them on the center, you'll hit the nose of your ship a lot of times, and especially on a Python or something that has a long nose, it becomes unbearable. Here's another thing. Some of these guys can get, well, not so much the ones that break free when you first detonate, but the ones that you blast off with your abrasion blaster can get really tight to rocks and be a problem. Now here's an example of what I think is doing it correctly. See, I've selected the one on the very top of the stack there, and I'm just going to try to ease in and pick it off without touching any of the others. Save a little time, and then lift my nose. And another off the top of the stack. And hopefully, I will lift my nose imperceptibly here. Maybe it doesn't seem like a lot, but, and again, it wasn't on the top, but I rotate till it is on the top, and go in and pick it off. The other thing that you'd like to do is you always want your thrusters to be engaged when you're turning. So if you're backing up or you're going forward, it doesn't matter. Just engage your thrusters. And the quickest way to do this is with this rocking motion, just like you were on an SRV, you know, on a planet. Just rock back and forth, picking up those materials. Here, there's only difference is we're doing it in 3D instead of kind of like on 2D surface where it is perfectly back and forth. Here we're rocking back and forth, but it might be above us or below us, or you know, in some kind of a unusual. Now here, I get too enthusiastic and I come in too hot and overshoot. So instead of hitting it and knocking it to kingdom come and then having to wait for it to settle, I just try to miss it completely, and waste a lot of time getting over enthusiastic, and it may seem slow. Well, okay, I do that a lot. I just fired a one seismic charge when I wanted to abrasion blast, and it's not going to hurt anything. And we have tons of those things. Unless you get up into a big ship like a Python or a crate or something, you're probably never going to worry about running out of those seismic charges. And these abrasion blasters are infinite, so and there it goes. It just detonated. Can't think of too much to say interesting about knocking these off. The only thing is, I just want to knock them all off so that they all have a time to settle and I won't be chasing a moving target. If you find that you're not very proficient at collecting these things, you might not want to break them all off at once because they do deteriorate over time, although you would have to take an incredibly long time to scoop these guys up for them, I think, to deteriorate to the point where they would disappear. Now there isn't anything really interesting or new happening here. It's just more of the same scooping once we get all of these guys blasted off. And I don't think there's any tricks to blasting them off. You just chase them down. Sometimes you're lucky and sometimes you're unlucky. And now I'm going to ignore that guy because see how he's drifting, and I have ones that are already settled here and easy to collect. The sun can be unfortunate and I can hardly see where I'm going, and I remember that scoop right there and I was like, it was much worse. It appeared in my ship than it did on the screen there. And again, it may seem like we could go a lot faster, and we could go a bit faster, but overshooting, going back and waiting for it to settle seems like more of a time waster. If you're, see, I'm coming in a little hot here, so I'm taking a risk, but I'm slowing down plenty early. I thought about speeding this part of the video up, but I decided to just let it play out because this is, you know, an example of how long it can take to scoop. So I didn't want to speed it up to make it seem like, oh, it's really fast, because it is really sort of fast. It's not that horrible. Let's get these guys. Sometimes these fragments you blast off. I'm not sure if you blast them or it doesn't matter if they're free, but they end up inside an asteroid. And neither you nor your limpets are ever going to get that guy. I've even seen rocks that drift into other asteroids nearby, like the pieces of this that are blasted off and drift apart. They don't actually care if like another asteroid was next to them, so they'll just drift into it, and you'll see these pieces of asteroids that are embedded into asteroids next to them. That's where you can get fragments inside that asteroid. Again, I'm over speeding, but slow down in plenty of time. I believe this is our last fragment, so we'll just check. Yeah, we're all clean. And we're ready to get out of here. Find out what we ended up with, 12. So that's not a bad haul.